School Committee for December 14th, 2021. Could we please salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Chair, members of the audience, if you could please remain standing this evening for a moment of silence, remembrance for a couple of staff members who were lost recently from the Woburn Public Schools, Ms. Rita Doherty, Ms. Debbie Trevitt, and James McGuire. May they rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mulrennan. So, could the superintendent please call the roll?
Ms. Chisholm.
Here.
Ms. Cormier.
Present.
Mr. Lipset.
Here.
Mr. Kissel.
Here.
Mr. Mulrennan.
Present.
Dr. Wells.
Here.
Ms. Crowley.
Present. This is a public meeting conducted by the Woburn School Committee. This will be live streamed and recorded, so anyone that comes in front of the school committee and speaks is also agreeing to being recorded. Moving on, and I also, thank you, Ms. Mulrennan, I want to express my deep condolences for the family of Debbie Trevitt, who we lost recently, who was a present staff member in the Woburn Public Schools. And thank you, Ms. Mulrennan, for that really nice tribute. First on the agenda, we have approval of minutes of 11/10/21. Is there any action? Motion to approve? I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Aye. That motion passes. I have public comment. Is there anybody in the audience besides all the elementary school principals that would like to come before the Woburn School Committee and be heard on any particular matter? I'm not seeing any. Okay, moving on to student representatives. Oh, I also want to note that Ms. Courtney Young, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction, will be participating remotely this evening. So she is present. You might see an empty chair, but she is present via remote. So moving on to our student representatives, we have Ms. Faith Frandudo and Ms. Sophia Ferksey, who I believe have some updates from, nope, I just see Faith.
Faith's here.
Hi, Faith.
Yes, unfortunately, Sophia couldn't make it tonight, but she will be doing the next meeting.
That is okay. I'm so happy to see you. Do you have some updates for us from the high school?
I do. So since 12/14, we had the first annual Rho Kappa History National Honor Society induction, which took last week on 12/7. Thank you, Ms. Connolly and the History Department for making this a reality, and congratulations to all those inducted. The 5th annual World Language NHS induction also took place since our last meeting. Students were inducted into Spanish, French, Latin, and Italian honor societies. Thank you to Ms. Escobar and the World Language Department faculty for continuing this wonderful opportunity for WMHS students. The Fine and Performing Arts Department held the first in-person performance since the start of the pandemic last night. The marching and concert band sounded amazing, as did the a cappella, choir, and chorus. Thank you to Mrs. Thomas and the tech students for supporting the program behind the scenes as well. The performance was also live streamed thanks to the Woburn Public Media Center. None of this success would be possible without the leadership of Ms. Trifalt and the K-12 Arts Coordinator. Nearly 20 juniors and seniors took the ASVAB last week, the military entrance exam at WMHS. This is another opportunity from post-high school for WMHS graduates. Each year, the high school has about 8 to 10 students that enter the military or are enlisted as ROTC/service academies. Ms. Keenan, the DECA advisor, took nearly 90 business students to a DECA competition last week. The students looked so professional and did well in the competition. Winter athletics are underway and competitions are starting for all, such as hockey, basketball, indoor track, gymnastics, and wrestling. Tomorrow, Ms. Victrisi and Mr. McGuire will be taking a group of students on a service trip to Cradles for Crayons to spread some holiday cheer. And on December 20th, Term 2 progress reports will be published and mid-year exams will take place the week following the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday in January. And that concludes my report.
Fantastic, Faith, as always. I'm sorry, Ms. Frandudo. Any questions for Ms. Frandudo? Yes, Ms. Cormier.
Thank you.
Hi, Ms. Rondudo. I just wanted to extend my congratulations again for your induction to Rho Kappa last week.
Thank you so much.
She also is inducted to the National Honor Society as well.
That was a lot of names.
It was nice to see you live. Busy.
She's
Yeah, it was nice to be in person.
awesome. Is there anything else? Yes, Mr. Mulrennan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Faith. How are you tonight? Did the
Good, how are you?
Great. The science team had a meet today.
We did, yes, science team had to meet. I competed in the chemistry event.
Okay, I understand one of the agenda items, one of the exercises was a mousetrap. So tell us, is there a better mousetrap out there yet, Faith?
I'm not sure. We'll just have to see how well the mousetrap did, the people who did that event today, how they did and how they scored, but maybe.
And how do you feel in your category?
I think our group did pretty well. We studied pretty hard for the event, and I think we did well.
Okay, great work. Thank you. Thanks for that update.
Thank you.
Awesome. Anything else? No, thank you, Ms. Rondudo, as always, for that wonderful presentation, and, take care. Have a wonderful evening. Although, I will
Thank
say,
you for having me.
you are totally welcome to stay and deliberate with the school committee. You just can't vote. We have an empty chair for you. If you'd like.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Great.
All right, moving swiftly along, I want to announce to the public that on our agenda, we have family engagement, family coordinator, and family, community, and engagement.
Family and Community
Person.
Engagement Liaison.
You'll get it.
Liaison.
Thank you, Ms. Cormier.
I got you.
We all know her as Ms. Adriana Mendez Sheldon. It has rescheduled her appearance in front of the school committee for January. And that's the only adjustment I see on the agenda at this point. But we do have a fantastic presentation for us from the elementary school principals. I want to acknowledge that they are all here, as well as 2 new assistant principals, I believe.
Yes.
At some point, we should greet as well, Dr. Crowley. And so, according to state law, the school committee looks at every single school and approves a school improvement plan as part of its strategic planning. And tonight, we will be looking at the elementary schools. And so whenever Dr. Crowley is ready, we'll hear a brief introduction, and then I believe that the principals have arranged for a presentation in part. They're presenting in whole. Is that right, Dr. Crowley?
Yes. So I think we're ready. Here we go. So want to introduce all the elementary school principals are here, including 2 new assistant principals who you'll be introduced to momentarily. What they've done is put together their school improvement plans, which you've had to review, but this presentation really captures the collaborative spirit that's happening at the elementary level. And rather than have each school do their own individual plan, a lot of the goals were overlapped. So without further ado, I will turn it over to the elementary principals to go through their presentation, and then I think we'll invite questions at the end, should people have any questions specific to an individual school or to their presentation as a whole. I'll spin you.
Nice, ladies first.
Almost.
How's that?
Beautiful.
All right.
Good evening, Ms. Maloney and Dr. Riley.
Okay, so our presentation tonight has a lot of our school improvement plans have goals that overlap. So the setup for tonight is that either individually or in pairs, we're going to present the goals that we have and kind of give the rationale for why we decided on that goal, and then answer any questions that you should have after.
Thank you.
Right. I'm assuming it's, okay, there we go.
So I'm going to start with our first goal, in equity for all students. And as a community of 7 principals and 3 assistant principals, we are working together to support this district-wide commitment to equity for all students and staff. And we've already kind of started this journey. It's been rigorous and exciting. So some of the activities we've invited for participation to various book studies, the leadership team. One such book is Equity by Design by Mirko Chardin and Katie Novak. Dr. Katie Novak, who co-authored this book, has also provided an equity audit for Woburn Public Schools, which we've already met and discussed, that audit and the data that's revealed. And Mirko Chardin we had as a keynote speaker. So one of the things about it's like this goal, it's really what we're reading and what we're working. We've met the authors, for example, the person that conducted the equity audit. She's, somebody that we can reach out to. Let me see. This is one such book. She actually, the woman that did the equity audit, co-authored the book with Mirko Chardin, who we had the chance to meet. So it's not only the our goal, but it's really kind of, we're able to internalize it because we're given this great opportunity to work with these people and not just arbitrarily reading these books that, may or may, we get to, like I said, work with the authors. We are working with SEAM Collaboratives, Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, India Barrows. SEAM Collaborative also has an inclusion specialist, Emily Pat. Both of them have been to my school in particular, and they have traveled to the other elementary schools. So we're able to talk over like real data as it's happening and discuss real ideas in real time. Let's see, we've had the opportunity to work with Dr. Kenan McKenzie, who just recently actually she got a job at Tufts University in the GLAD program, which stands for Generous Listening and Dialogue. And we've been doing some generous listening with her around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And let me see, we just very recently, the most recent part of this goal is we put out a family engagement survey to all the families in the district, and we're hoping to kind of disaggregate that data by elementary, by family, there's many things that we can do with the data to kind of learn and move forward. We're hoping that this happens, obviously, during this school year, but this is obviously just year one of a multiple year effort to continue improving our equitable access and inclusive district. Let's see, so I think I just wanted to primarily talk about a lot of the activities that we're doing around to kind of achieve this goal. And one thing to make it measurable, I want to say that we do plan on doing the survey again after we go and analyze and disaggregate the data. Then we will kind of address kind of the priorities similar to what we just did with the equity audit, and then revisit. So it's just to make sure that we're improving.
Great, awesome. Okay, our second goal that is a collaborative effort, and the same goal for all of the elementary schools, is around writing. And this writing goal directly aligns to the strategic plan under the bucket of professional practice. So thanks to the support of the school committee last year, we were able to secure a fantastic writing program called the Units of Study, which is created by Lucy Hawkins. Unfortunately, last year, the conditions that we were teaching under weren't ideal for the continuity of writing, with 2 days on and having kids be 3 days at home. So we knew going into this year that we wanted to spend time, resources, and provide instructional support to our teachers so that they were able to use the units of study with fidelity this year. So in order to do that, we came up with this goal that is actually a two-part goal. So in a collaborative fashion, our teachers have the first part of this goal here, that students will increase their score by at least 1 point on a district-wide rubric that all the teachers are using. And it also feeds into our administrator goal, because you'll see the second part here is that as an elementary group, we have started a book study around Lucy Hawkins' Leading Well, which is intended for administrators who are either relaunching the Writers' Workshop or starting it for the first time. And lucky for us, we kind of have a foot in both camps there, because we essentially are relaunching it and starting it at the same time this year with all of our kids and 5 days a week. So what this book does, it gives us some support as administrators for what to look for in the classroom and also how to provide some instructional leadership to our teachers. So we also have, in order to be able to make this measurable, in order to track the students' growth, this year we have a data dashboard where I'm sure you've heard about already at school committee meetings, but we are able to, as principals, go through and filter by school, by grade level, by teacher, and then even by individual student, so that we can tell what the student's score was on their pre-assessment and their post-assessment per genre that they're writing about, and track their growth throughout the school year. So this helps us when we start to filter into our third goal, which is ISTs, and bringing students up to the instructional support team if they're not making consistent growth. Okay? Good. All right, we're going to invite up goal number 3 and 4 crew. Pass the baton.
Good evening, Ken Caceres from the Goodyear Elementary.
Hi,
Stephen Gallo, Assistant Principal, Goodyear.
Mr. Gallo, I want to welcome you to the district.
Thank
It's
you
nice
very
to
much.
meet you.
Thank you.
So exciting. I'll let you get to your goals, though. Go ahead.
Well, first, I just want to thank Mr. Mulrennan for his moment of silence and thank administration and the school committee for their support over the last couple of weeks at the Goodyear. So thank you on behalf of our staff. We're going to talk about goal number 3, which refers to our meetings and our IST processes, as Mrs. Maloney just mentioned. The purpose of the IST is to take a look at our students who may not be making benchmark or making effective progress in certain areas, and that can extend beyond just the academics. So we can look at attendance, we can look at social, emotional, and behavioral needs, and we can look at health-related issues as well. And the goal of the IST is to work collaboratively with our school staffs and really run directed, targeted, efficient meetings, and using our school staff as resources to determine what types of intervention, accommodations, or anything else we can put in place so that we can help students succeed and be successful in school. So some of the things that we do, just universal screening for all students, synthesizing the data that we collect and sharing that with appropriate staff members, increasing the levels of targeted support, and then utilizing our WIN block for interventions and progress monitoring, along with our content specialists and other support staffs, so that, again, kids are getting the targeted Tier 2 intervention, but also really effective Tier 1 intervention in the classrooms as well.
Well, the IST process is a significant part of MTSS. It's a system of protocols and procedures that's designed to identify, evaluate, deliver, adjust, and adjust instruction for all students. We're working together in school-based teams in an effort to provide these students with the support they need to be successful. Whether it's social, emotional, behavioral, or intellectual difficulties, whether or not that manifests itself in the classroom, the halls, or any other school setting, this process will supply the framework for intervention and overall improvement. The bottom line is we want to meet these students where they are and do what's best for each student so that they can be successful.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll invite up our next group for goal 4.
Wow.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Principal Wells and Principal Jolly, welcome.
Well, I guess I'll start. I do want to make a point again, what Matt said, that this group of principals work so well together. We've added Matt and Steve to the mix, and Linda, and it's been really a nice mix, and you have a really strong group of principals. So I want you to make sure you know that. They're really a strong, very professional group. So.
Thank you.
And-
I want to thank you so much for saying that.
Well,
What a
and-
wonderful way to.
And the plans that we put together, we did work very well together, and I see Courtney's face there. Hi, Courtney. Her too. So it really means a lot. I just want you guys to know that. You've made some really good decisions in your hiring process too. So thank you.
You guys, you also have the polish
Yeah, and
right there.
and our fourth goal And I jumped on this when we were going to do this. I said I want to do it with Liz right away because it was her idea. And I thought it was such a great idea, such a great resource for what we have internally in each building that I jumped all over it. So I've been working on it, and so I'm going to ask her for more help. But it's a resource that we have internally in the building that she just brought to light to us. So at this time, Liz, tell us all about it.
Yeah, so our fourth goal is focused on relationship mapping, and 4 out of the 7 elementary schools are doing it. It's the Reeves, the Holt Wyman, the Lynn Scott, and the Malcolm White. The focus of this really just developed through understanding that in the pandemic there was a lot of socialization loss, as well as academic, but noticing that the trauma and the issues that students are coming to school with are so much bigger than we realize. So what relationship mapping does is essentially target students that don't necessarily have a connection to an adult already established. So the way we identified this in our building is that we had a roster of all students in the building, and staff would go through and put their initials next to students that they felt connected to. So then we looked at the students that didn't have any names next to them, which was quite a few. And we target them and we put them in our high priority list. And we looked at attendance data, referral data that Dr. Baldessari put together in our form that we all use. We looked at grades, report cards, family background, IST, you name it. Multiple levels of data are brought into these conversations. And staff that were interested in being a part of this goal in most of our buildings was most of our staff were then assigned as mentors to very, quickly check in with these students, just bond a relationship with them, give them praise on classwork, say hi to them at recess, maybe join them for lunch bunch, things like that. And it's ongoing work. At the Reeves, we kind of started it last year with a book study, the book Culturize, which is a phenomenal read. That just talks about how it's so important that students have a relationship and a champion at school. And so it's going to at least be a year-long goal, and we're going to continue to look at the data. Hopefully, through relationship mapping, we see a decrease in referrals, an increase in attendance, an increase in overall satisfaction. For some of the students, we are considering doing a survey towards the end of the school year to see overall how they're feeling about being in school, and if that seems like successful data, we'd probably do that next year as well. So each of our plans looks a little bit different. Our action steps are a little bit different, but overall, the general idea is that we're just targeting the students that don't necessarily have a mentor yet in the building, hoping to help them get through things and have a better time at school.
Yeah, and mine may not be as extravagant as hers. Mine's a little simpler. My building's a little smaller, but it does give you a chance to, we try to bring some of the teachers from in their past back into their future now. Gives them so if they had a good relationship with somebody back then, they can keep it going. So mine's a little simpler than Liz's, but I think it's going to work.
I think the greatest thing about this goal is it encompasses all staff members, from custodians to the nurse, to our crossing guard, you name it. People are involved in relationship mapping. So when we were sharing the idea with our staff, we wanted to highlight how we're already doing this work. You already build relationships every day just by smiling and greeting students. But let's really proactively try to have purposeful conversations with them. And then loop in with their teacher, check in on how they're doing, and just track the data as you go.
I'm sorry, this is awesome. Can I just ask a question? So anecdotal data, have kids asked for their mentor? Like, have you seen some inklings of success?
Students don't necessarily know they have a mentor. We don't share that with them. So it's just, if you have a student, so for example, I have 4 students that are on my check-in.
Got it.
So I would go and maybe have lunch with them, see how they're doing, but certainly students will go up to that person more proactively and say, hey, I got a 100 on my spelling test. I saw it today with a specific student. So
okay, so it's not like, hi, I'm your mentor, just so you know. Yeah, so it's more like a inconspicuous type of thing.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I understand. That's awesome. Okay.
Thank you
so much.
It's sometimes called silent mentoring.
Silent mentoring. Thank you, Dr. Baldessari. Awesome.
Too long.
Hello, Principal Clark and Principal Nickerson. Welcome.
Good evening.
Malcolm White and the Shamrock.
Well, you're actually first on the list. So Mr. Nickerson and I are here together
We have goals that are different than our counterparts because we both get grants from DESE, 21st Century Grants. As part of those grants, we need to incorporate the work that they're doing into our school improvement plans. So we're going to talk about, there are different grants, different activities, so we'll each talk about what we're doing.
So at the Malcolm White, beginning this year, we have the awesome opportunity of what we're referring to as SALT. It's the Supporting Additional Learning Time Grant, which puts us in a position where up to 50 of our students can participate after school from 2:40 until 4:40 in a little bit of everything, really, a little bit of all the best parts of the school day, which is to say they can have some recess and snack time at the end of the school day and kind of get their feet back under them. And then we transfer it over to some more academics for a while. And this program spans 1 through 5, so the academics obviously look different depending on the grade level. And then maybe a little bit of structured play, followed up by some more academics before dismissal time. So we try to break it up into 20 to 40-minute chunks of time, depending on the day and the activity and so on. And quite frankly, on the student's interest level, because this is an extra 2 hours of the day for these kids after a full day of school, and it can be a lot sometimes. We're trying to make the learning kind of hands-on and fun and project-based and as engaging as possible as well. So it's really fun as we're starting to get our feet under us and put this program together. And homework help as well. Homework help is another kind of fundamental part of what it is that we're trying to do. So as we are learning and growing, a lot of different pieces are coming together, and it's pretty fun to see. The YMCA and the Boys and Girls Club in Woburn have also been a fundamental part of what we're doing. The Boys and Girls Club provides an advisor for us, Allison McDaniel, who is also on my school council as a community member, and she's been fantastic up until this point. And the YMCA has taken on the responsibility of hiring high school helpers, which is another great bonus of what we have. So we've got high school kids that are coming in, and they're being paid, but at the same time they're getting the benefit of working with these kids and being really excellent role models in the process. So we're still we're a trimester into the school year, but definitely the program is starting to get its stride a little bit. We just had a visit the other day from the Department of Ed, and they came in and kind of had an initial just see how we're doing, and a lot of positive reviews from that. So at this point, we're definitely in good shape.
So at the Shamrock, we're on the opposite end of the spectrum. We've had a relationship with the Boys and Girls Club and our after-school program for over 16 years. Mm-hmm. This grant hasn't been that long, but we've worked with the Boys and Girls Club going back before I started at the Shamrock. So I can't say enough. The Shamrock wouldn't be the great place it is without this collaboration with the Boys and Girls Club that we've had. And they have dedicated themselves to providing our students with a free after-school program. So when we applied and got the DESE 21st Century Grant, our data has been so spectacular that after a couple years of being in the grant, we became, I don't want to call it a model school, but we've had plenty of visits from other programs to come and see how we're running this program here. And Allison McDaniel runs our program at the Shamrock, and she is amazing. She's done from being a Shamrock parent to being a program director. She has been an amazing resource for us with the Boys and Girls Club. So our kids, there's a focus on homework help. Our teachers identify students that they would like to see in the program, and those kids get first crack at registering for the program. So our neediest students get kind of jump to the front of the line. And I think that's it. We both are going to be using the Survey of Academic Youth Outcomes, the SAO survey, which goes to all our teachers. And a shout out to our staff. It's not the simplest, shortest survey. It takes them a little while to fill them out. The Shamrock teachers are always happy to do it for after the bell. They know the impact that it has. So.
Yeah, if I may, I didn't say that the program is free at the Malcolm White as well.
Wow,
which is
awesome.
excellent.
Fantastic. Well, thank you.
I don't know if we're fielding questions, if you want to start. with us, and then we
We'd
can
like,
work backwards
okay.
almost.
Well, we have the Malcolm Whites and the Shamrock in front of us, so let's start there. Does anyone, yes, Dr. Wells?
So I noticed that the Shamrock, one of your goals, you have foundations, it's not in anybody else's, maybe if you want to talk about that.
The preschool, the Reeves and the Shamrock each house the preschool classes. So we've been using foundations for years, and K2, we're pushing down the Shamrock. Preschool teachers have had preschool foundations for a couple of years, but this year they're actually going into classrooms, seeing how it's working in the kindergarten, and the teachers over at the Reeves as well are focusing on foundations for the preschool level.
And Mrs. Chisholm?
There's 50 students at the Malcolm White. How many at the Shamrock between the After the Bell and the grant for additional students?
The After the Bell students, they're doing about 40 kids a day, 2 days a week, so about 80 students.
Mr. Lipset? Yes, that's your name.
I know that staffing has been an issue in some before and after school programs. I just wanted to check in with you and see to what degree that's been a challenge for you this year, and any thoughts you might have on how we can sort of address that.
For the Shamrock, it has not been an issue. We are really fortunate. The Shamrock has a really high number of paras because of the special education programs we have. So a lot of our paras work in our after-school program. So we are really fortunate that our after-school program hasn't really had big issues with hiring. So I'll let you say.
At the Malcolm White with the SALT program, we have had difficulties, and just in the past couple of weeks, we've become fully staffed, which is pretty great. So now that we can actually extend it out to all of the kids.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Kissel and Ms. Mulrennan.
Real quick, I did, on your improvement plan, I noticed the others had a list of like the parents, the teachers, and so on. And one of my questions to everybody would be, probably to bounce off of Mr. Lipstick. Is it hard, are you having a difficulty getting some parents? I noticed one has pending and pending. Is that Linscott? Yeah, so are you finding that piece?
And my list is on page.
Oh, maybe it is. I apologize.
Page 2. Sorry, just above my MCAS data. There's a list.
Okay.
Yeah, on that page.
Oh, yeah, it goes the other way. Yeah, that's fine. All right, so just in general, is it difficulty finding any parents to help out?
Yeah, what's hard, I'll just speak for the Shamrock. What's really hard is we don't get to see and interact with parents in the way we always have. One of the things that worries me at the Shamrock, we have an incredible PTO. It's a very small group of people who work extremely hard. And the way that keeps going is by them recruiting people in younger grades. And right now we're seeing, we're not seeing a lot of younger parents working with the PTO the way we would have because they aren't invited into the school. We aren't seeing them every day. So that is just a concern in general. But as we're getting more parents in and as we're doing parent-teacher conferences in the building, I hope that only gets better and better.
Yeah,
that covers it.
I didn't have any struggles filling out the school council. It worked out pretty well on my end. And I agree with Mr. Clark with regard to, bringing the parents in is great when we have the opportunity according to the guidelines and so on.
Thank you.
Ms. Mulrennan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, gentlemen. Great partnership with the Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, and organizations. But you mentioned the high school helpers there. If someone is home right now that happens to have a high school student that kind of wants to get down that path of education or working with children, is it they best to contact you or check into the high school programs? Or how would they go about that? Because it sounds like we talk about staffing everywhere. We know there's high school students that are interested in this kind of field, and we're going to need them down the road. So how would a high school kid today kind of join up with you guys?
Sure. Anybody that's interested is welcome to reach out to me or to Principal Callahan. She has helped me in recruiting some of the kids that we already have. And the hiring process, we would then shift it over to the YMCA, and they would be hired through the YMCA but work with us.
And the Shamrock has the Amazing Before the Bell program, and that works with students from Woburn High, but they sign up for that as a course.
As does the Malcolm White.
Yeah, with Mr. Lapham.
Dr. Wells?
I have one school that opted in for the relationship mapping and one didn't. I was just interested why, 4 schools did and other schools didn't, so.
Yeah, I have an extra preschool
Right.
goal, and we have the goal that's required for the 21st Century Grant. So I was full on goals. But as you look at each building, though, we're all doing other things that aren't reflected in the goals. For the Shamrock, we're working with our special education department. Maureen Ryan got us a consultant named Doc Lucci. She's an inclusion specialist. So she spent 3 full days at the Shamrock, and she's doing a teacher survey, and she's working on how we can best integrate our kids into the classrooms. So at some point, you don't want to put too much on the classroom. So we've all got amazing things going on. Some are in our school improvement plans and others are.
Yeah, I thought it was an excellent opportunity. It's something that I had thought about in the past. Excuse me. Actually, when Mrs. Jolly brought it up, I just said, all right, well, if the ball's already rolling a little bit here and she's already broken the ice a little, I'll definitely take advantage of following down that path and try to institute it. I think it's a wonderful thing because, essentially what we're doing is we're trying to boil everything down to the kids that are most in need and make sure that we're providing for those students. So there's nothing more important to me, quite frankly.
And just sort of to understand a little bit, like when you did your list, approximately how many students, really didn't have a close relationship?
Yeah, my list is still in progress right now,
Okay.
so I can give you that number as soon as I have it.
Because I'm a little, because when I tend to think about the schools, I tend to think at the elementary level, there's more of a closer relationship with the students. They're in the classroom the whole day. And
Sure.
so I'm worried that, if we're seeing some disconnect at the elementary level, I can only imagine as it progresses through the schools, how many students feel disconnected.
So, if I may, I would say that beyond just the relationship with the individual classroom teacher, we're looking for just a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, almost taking for granted that the classroom teacher themselves is building those relationships with each of the individual kids, and what's the next layer would be typically how I look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have in front of us the Shamrock Improvement Plan and the Malcolm White Elementary School Plan. The 4 goals were presented as a district-wide goal for all the elementary school. Do I have any action on these 2 improvement plans?
Motion approved.
Okay, any discussion on these? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're just can't spend too much time, so let's just start with them, and if you have them all in front of you, for the public that's listening, it contains the strategic plan, and it has the DESE data, and then it has the 4 goals that were just very thoroughly explained by the groups of principals, and then each principal may have added some different things. So why don't we start with the yes,
Sorry.
Dr.
I
Walls?
did have a couple of general questions, and I didn't know whether we were just going to pummel these guys.
We're happy to share with
Yeah.
if there's a specific school that you have a question.
No, it was more about the second goal in writing indicator up by 1 point. What's the, is it from 1 to 5, 1 to 100? Like, I don't know what.
It's a 4-point rubric that
Okay.
is part of the units of study program that goes along with the units.
Okay. So 1 point out of
4. Yeah.
Okay, so
That's
25%.
a good
Okay,
start.
that makes, yeah. And then the IST, it was 6 weeks before or every 6 weeks there's a meeting, and I wasn't sure, is that an effective time frame, or should it be more frequent, and how is 6 weeks chosen, I guess?
Yeah, it's not set in stone.
Okay.
If we meet on one student and we put some things in place and we start to see a difference, the teacher may come back and say, no, we're headed in the right direction.
So that's like a map.
But in any changes we make are going to take at least 6 weeks to see an effect. If we're really focused on a student's reading or a specific area of their reading, you don't see a huge gain in the first few weeks, but after 6 weeks, you start to see whether it's making a difference.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Wells. So does anyone else have any questions on on any particular plan. Let's start with the Reeves. Is there anything about the Reeves that anyone has any questions for Principal Jolly?
If I may, new Assistant Principal Matt Commoneats is here tonight. I just want to say his name out loud publicly and acknowledge his presence here at the meeting and thank him for his leadership at the Reeves so far this year.
Thank you and welcome. I'm sorry I missed you. So, does anyone have any questions for the Reeves administration?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, looking at the Linscott Rumford Elementary Plan, of course, the four goals that were already explained to us. And there's probably something different about this one. Anyways, anyone have any questions on the Linscott Rumford Elementary School Improvement Plan?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. And we have the Goodyear Elementary School School Improvement Plan contained within it the four goals. Any questions on this one?
Nope. Motion to approve.
Motion approved.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. That plan is approved. And the Alta Vista Elementary School Improvement Plan, the four goals that already explained to us. Any discussion on that or questions for Principal Riley?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
That plan is approved. And the Harold Wyman Elementary School Plan.
Motion to approve.
Anyone have any questions for Principal Maloney? I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. And I think that's it. Great. And Ms. Mulrennan,
Thank you.
final words?
Yeah, just to go through something before us, or any one of the principals in the audience, obviously I really enjoy the idea of the students teaming up or being a mentor, partnering up with someone in the building. How are we handling the English language students that are having difficulty down that road? Are we kind of concentrating down that as needed, or anybody can chime in if you have other additional information for that? I mean, it's great you're doing this. We want to make sure that that student can communicate with whoever their individual adult might be. Hopefully someone has that on their radar.
At the Malcolm White, we really have the benefit, excuse me, of being footsteps away from the high school. You're on the same piece of property essentially. So I cannot say that I've had mentors come over specifically for EL students at the Malcolm White, but we do have throughout the day and not represented in the school improvement plans. There currently are two other young men who are coming over and working with some of our kids. And if the opportunity for an EL student to come over and share some of their experiences and be a mentor, I'm 100% open to it.
Great.
Wow, awesome.
I'd like to see anybody build upon that if need be in your buildings, please, and let us know how it goes.
Thank you, Ms. Mulrennan. Well, this is fantastic. I want to thank you, all of the elementary school principals for all the hard work. Clearly, this was a huge effort to come up with these goals. I don't even know how you would even prioritize it. We're very proud of the work that you do every day. So thank you so much for
Thank you very much.
this amazing presentation.
I appreciate the schools and the administration working to sort of make it very similar thing, but there's some things aren't the same, but it would be good to have all the same data in the report. I think they had attendance, ethnic and socioeconomic breakdown and MCAS. So that would be good going forward when we get these things from the schools, that all the same data sets in there, because that just makes it easier looking at the dynamics of the school and seeing what's going on in the school. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. So that's fantastic. We are tackling writing, family engagement, equity and inclusion, and social emotional.
And many other things as well.
And absolutely many other things. That is really fantastic work.
You can be dismissed.
Oh, they can stay.
Oh, no, they want to stay.
They must want to stay.
You can be dismissed a bit like that.
They can come in at 10 tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
We'll give them that.
Yeah.
Okay. So members, as I mentioned before, the family and engagement community, family and community engagement person is not available. My superintendent and I wanted to debrief the school committee on a meeting we had with the buildings department. In front of you, the superintendent has provided you with a spreadsheet outlining new development, and by that I mean potentially houses where children will live in them and go to our schools, and how that impacts school population, particularly class size. And Dr. Crowley will debrief the committee.
Sure. We had a meeting last week at City Hall with Tom Quinn, who was extraordinarily helpful to us to kind of understand what's being built and the timing of when it is going to be built, and things that are built and the capacities that are where they are. So the reason specifically that we requested the meeting is that at 290 Mishawam, which is the Woburn Mall Avalon community, we started seeing more and more students coming out of that community, and we wanted to make sure that we were cognizant of the elementary schools that students were going to be assigned to as it relates to class size. And so what Tom Quinn couldn't provide us, we provided based on address. And so if you see on the 290 Mishawam, there's 250 vacant units that are filled out of 350. So there's still 100 units that are open there. So far, that's yielded 9 students to go to the Alta Vista, 2 to the middle school, 3 to the high school, 1 pre-K. So all the time when they build, there is a formula that they use to anticipate what's coming out. They call it a yield on new developments. But we just wanted to be proactive to make sure with all the new developments, particularly, up you can see a lot of these schools will affect, the buildings will affect the Alta Vista, the Malcolm White, and the Reeves. So, but again, I want to be clear, we're not redistricting, we're not doing anything, in haste, but I just want the committee and the community to know that we are trying to keep an eye on where students are coming from so that we can place them appropriately.
Yeah, and basically it's a working group, and I just represented the school committee and the working group, and we could potentially see, perhaps in the future, if there's new growth, diverting them from the Alta Vista to the Goodyear under some, short-term need. But again, we didn't see anything at this point that needed school committee approval or anything. Just staying on top of things at this point. Yes, Mr. Kissel.
We had a company come in to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it was a survey or
Yes.
a data thing.
Yeah.
Did they have as much information on the buildings that were coming in? I mean, obviously, a lot of these buildings are probably relatively new.
So I think,
a couple of years ago, at least.
yeah, we had that done, I think, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Sort of a demographic analysis, right? Yeah, prior to COVID. And so, one of the things that we'll talk about probably at Resource this week, though, is the idea of maybe having them come back, because I think COVID has reshuffled the deck a little bit as to who's living where and how many students are living with grandparents, or like the arrangements aren't quite as typical as they were even just back a couple of years ago.
So maybe I'm missing on some of the pieces. So you admin filled in the left side, I'm assuming.
Correct.
And the NA is not occupied yet, so you have no idea.
No enrollment.
Well, that's what I mean. It says
Yeah,
occupancy
right.
starting in spring of 2022 on the far right side, so
Mhm.
some of them. So what's the company bring, because there's a cost to that. What does the company bring that's different than, they anticipated projects?
What would
Yeah, I
having
guess
a
I'm just
company
trying to
do?
figure out what it is they brought that we used.
I think what they would do is try to predict, what they did was try to predict what we have on the left-hand column here.
Okay.
And so it would be interesting in my thinking to see if what our current what we are seeing aligns with the way that they would analyze the data. Because if we're looking specifically up at the Alta Vista permitted projects, 120 Commerce Way, the Mishawam, and 1042 Main, you're looking at hundreds and hundreds of units. And so how many kids are really going to be coming out of that? They have a formula. So what this doesn't tell us is how many are one bedroom, two bedroom, three bedroom. So they would drill into the data a little bit more for us.
Okay.
Yes, Dr. Wells.
So one, and I don't know what the current numbers are, but the last time we got the report on attendance and how many students we had, we were down about 100 students from just before COVID. And I'm sort of interested in where those students went and, what's happening there. Because I've been on long enough that since I've been on, every time there's a development, I've heard, there's going to be hundreds of students coming into the school system, but it just never sort of materializes. And, what I'm worried about is, are we losing, how many students are we losing, and is there an increase in the number of students we're losing from our district for whatever reason? They're homeschooling, they're going somewhere else, whatever. Because I think, that's going to be the battle for the years, is to retain the students that are eligible to come to Woburn and try to make sure that they come here. So I think I'm more interested in the students that are eligible and not coming, as opposed to the students that might be coming 10, 20 years from now.
Right.
Because, that'll be a different story.
So I think, and Ms. McLeod or Dr. Baldessari can help me with the number, but I think the homeschool number has remained
About the same.
Right?
66. Last year, I think we got as high as 70 at one point.
Right.
We're at 66 right now. I will tell you that in March of 2020, the day before the pandemic, we had 4,488 students. And as of yesterday, we have 4,509. So it's an increase of 21 students. Our EL population in March of 2020 was 421. And then during the pandemic, we dropped significantly, believe it or not, down to 228. And now, as of yesterday, we are at 445. So we went way down and way back up, and the enrollments we're still getting pounded with enrollment. So before the end of the year, I anticipate a number greater than 450 or 460, maybe even higher EL students. Those are the numbers that we have. We would, had Adriana been here this evening with our crew, we would have done a whole presentation on those numbers, but that's the statistics for where we are right now.
So maybe if we could get numbers, the latest update, breaking down by grades and so forth, just so we can see where everybody is and comparison. As you can use that data.
Yeah, but there's also the ins and outs. Like when I say that there's 4488 and 4509. There's still hundreds and hundreds of kids that have left, and hundreds of kids who have come in. It's not the same 4,500 kids.
No, I understand that. But I think that's another issue we have to look at.
There's a lot of movement.
Is how many students are, one of the things I'm interested in is how many students come in at K and stay to 12. Because that, we design our system so that it's a progressive education. But if we have people coming in, if more of our students are coming in the middle, we may have to think how we do it, because if we're anticipating that everybody's going to come in at K and get all the things that they need to progress, and then they come in, they're coming in all over the place.
Okay, this was just looking at, the issue at hand, which is kids moving into Woburn and where school they're going to go to. That was this issue. Anyone have any questions on this? Ms. Chisholm, did you have a question? Yes.
One of my concerns is that we have 4 schools, elementary schools, that could see an increase going to 1 middle school.
I couldn't hear you.
Well, we have 4 elementary schools, so let's get the Goodyear, the Alternate, the White, that all feed into the Kennedy Middle School. And there's only 2 that feed into the Joyce. So we may see a problem at the middle school level more than we do even at the elementary.
Right.
If all of a sudden these kids come in and there's a surge from those 4 elementary schools going to 1 middle school. So that's something else that we need to kind of watch on to.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ms. Chisholm, absolutely. Anyone else have any, this was just to give you information. I just wanted the public to know, and of course the committee, that, people see growth happening in Woburn. The schools committee and the administration are on it, studying it, looking at it, and making sure that class sizes remain what they're supposed to be and kids are safely in buildings. So I want everyone to know that. Great. Thank you so much for that robust discussion. Wow. Subcommittee reports. Yay. Finance, Mrs. Chisholm.
Yes, we met on December 8th at 3:30 here at the conference room. In attendance, the Superintendent Dr. McCarley, Assistant Superintendent Mike Baldessari, and Assistant Superintendent Paul Esconado, Patty McKinnon, and school committee members Dr. John Wells, Andrew Lipset, and myself. We approved the bills for warrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. Warrant was $259, $961.70. Warrant 2 was $29,419.90. Warrant 3 was $853, $641.42, and warrant 4 was $86, $890.56. We need a motion to approve those bills.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a second. Any discussion on motion? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes.
Okay, we get our questions answered prior to the meeting, so it's been extremely helpful to keep our meetings very short and to the point. But we did have discussion on the peer mediation at the high school. There was $6,500 there for training for the students, but there was another cost that was not budgeted that will be added to our next year's budget. SPED is holding the line as of now, and we feel that we're going to be okay with that. The public relations firm that was just added, we spoke on that, and the superintendent spoke of increasing need for media requests and had spoken with the mayor, and he's in agreement with the hire of this firm, and he also does PR for police and the city. And this will be a budgeted item in our budget coming for next year. The curriculum seminars and dues were over, but that's going to be evaluated by Courtney and get back to us for that for budget purposes. And then Assistant Superintendent Bob Alpanada made the request that we increase the salary for our substitute teachers. The demand is high and we've not been able to fill a lot of the absences. So hopefully with the increase, we'll be able to attract more candidates. The recommendation is to increase those with 2 or more years to $125 a day. College degree, yeah, from $90, and those without to $110 from previous $85. This was a favorable vote from the subcommittee, and the full committee would have to vote on that for approval.
I'll make the motion to approve the increase in salary.
Second.
I have a motion on the table in a second. Any discussion on that motion?
The motion.
Yes, of
I
course,
forgot to
Dr.
ask
Wells.
if the meeting comes. So obviously, the anticipation is, once we raise the price, that's going to be the price in next year's budget, at least.
I think that's it's a good question, Dr. Wells. I think that will be part of our budget discussions in spring, because by that time we'll see if the increase of the salary has brought more people into. It may not be a cause and effect with just increasing the price, but we'll certainly have that discussion in our budget deliberations.
Because the trick is, once you pay somebody more, and then you try to take it away from them, they don't like that.
Well,
so I'm thinking about the established pool of things. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. Good point. Okay.
And we did,
I think we're voting on a motion.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. I almost forgot.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Thank you, Mrs. Chisholm, for your patience.
And
Go
I
ahead.
believe that's going to start.
January 3rd.
And the hope is to add permanent district-wide subs in a budget too, so that we'll have to watch for on that. And there was one budget transfer from class advisor salary to the high school English supply line, and that was for the school newspaper, and that was $4,000. But we don't need to vote on that.
Thank you, Mrs. Chisholm. Does anyone have any questions for finance? Thank you.
Thank you.
Curriculum data trends, Mr. Lipset.
Yes, Madam Chair, we met on Tuesday, December 7th at 4:00 p.m. In attendance were Ms. Young, Dr. Baldessari, Ms. Addie Gillis, as well as school committee members Mr. Kissel, Dr. Wells, and myself. Ms. Young and Ms. Gillis were presenting some revised procedures to manage basically the review and replacement of any curriculum materials that we need to revise and replace in the order of our education. In order to better respond to the needs of our students, our staff, and any community input or inquiry about any curriculum materials we use in the schools. Dr. Baldessari presented a comprehensive review of school committee policies that touch on these procedures. Most of those were from sections IG, which covers curriculum, IJ on instructional materials, and K on community relations. And Ms. Gillis discussed the district's new reading program, which, among other things, calls for the diversification of available reading materials so that all of our students can both see themselves reflected in learning material and gain a window into different experiences. Ms. Young and Ms. Gillis expressed a need to clarify how school staff should direct and respond to any community inquiries or challenges to any curricular material. And so they laid out a plan in order to address any issues that come up. One is a student survey on instructional materials that's going to be taking place in January. Another, a standardized form for any community challenges to any of our curricular materials that will provide more detailed information on the nature of any issues, any challenges that come up, which calls on respondents to provide a clear summary of the work in question, any objection that they have to it, so that school staff can sort of better respond to any issues. They'll be creating as well an instructional review committee to assess any challenges. That will include principals, curriculum coordinators, teachers, staff, students, as well as parents and community members. We also looked at sort of standardizing the procedure for replacing any older materials based on curricular changes, on lack of accuracy, lack of demand, deterioration, newer additions, any of the sort of standard things that might come up when we're looking at books in libraries or in classrooms. And also looking at, for clarity on procedures for any materials that are donated to our schools for placement in classrooms or libraries, so to best determine the placement of any new material. So we discussed, exactly the procedure of where parent inquiries should go. Should they go first to classroom teacher, or is that more of a suggestion? We talked about sort of balancing, discussions of balanced views and to what degree do we retain the ability to sort of best direct materials in our buildings. And so, sort of an update from Ms. Young on sort of the work that she and Ms. Gillis and the curriculum staff have been doing in this regard. And it was met favorably. It didn't require a vote. Ms. Young also provided an update on discussions surrounding revising the schedule at the middle school level. This is, ongoing discussions, and we'll be sort of bringing groups together for brainstorming. Any changes would have to come through collective bargaining, but that's where we are on that. And we adjourn at 4:50.
Thank you, Mr. Lipset. Any questions for curriculum data trends? Not seeing any. Great. Personnel sub.
I just wanted to
of course, Dr. Wells.
And, one of the things that came up is about donations and books and so forth. And, I voiced it at the subcommittee hearing, but I really feel that if there are curriculum materials that are needed and some group determines that we don't have them, I'd rather have them come before us and tell us we need them rather than having them go out and collect money for it, because I think it's an obligation of the school system to provide those materials. And when we have groups collecting materials, it looks like for some reason the school department is remiss in supplying them. So, I want to, obviously some of the groups are within the schools, so I'd like the staff to know that. Like if they think that we, lacking books and subjects or whatever, they should come through the administration and say, here's an issue, and let's deal with it, because I don't think it's right to be asking community to fund material for the schools, when they're already paying taxes and we're supposed to do that. So just wanted to bring that out to the full board. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. Anything else? Okay. Personnel subcommittee, Ms. Mulrennan?
Have not met, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Of course, Ms.
So
Chisholm.
is there an update on the hiring? Were we able to get any of the new positions that we asked for, we approved last week?
So we've hired one RBT position,
Okay.
and we hired one speech language pathologist.
Getting there.
We're getting there.
18 more to go.
And I think maybe you see it, but we're trying to be proactive. A lot of the newsletters that go out to families have jobs listed in them now, so we're trying to get the word out.
Thank you, Dr. Crowley. Mr. Mulrennan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you could, at this point, Dr. Crowley, to Mrs. Chisholm's point, where would someone look if they were interested in something that we're offering right now? Everywhere is staffing issues. Someone's at home listening and watching these meetings. School newsletters go out, but you're not involved in the schools, so you're not getting the newsletters. They're not getting the emails that we get that says we need staffing here and personnel. Perhaps you can announce where people might start looking, for college kids and otherwise.
Yeah, so it's WooburnPublicSchools.com. There's a tab that says employment information, and all of our current openings are right there. If someone's not technologically savvy, just call the Woburn Public Schools main number, and we will connect you to Human Resources.
Great, thank you. I just think that's important. It's great the newsletters are reminding people of that, and you see it all the time, but, you know, maybe somebody doesn't get the newsletter, so it'd be a nice way to get a hold of someone for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mulrennan. I know Policy and Safety Subcommittee has a presentation for us, right?
Yes,
Mr. Kissel?
we did meet, thank you. We did meet on 12/10/21 at 10:15 a.m. by Zoom. Present was myself, Dr. Mike Baldessari, Chair Ellen Crowley, Colleen Cormier, and Pat Chisholm. There were a couple of parents on as well. I don't think I'm supposed to list all of them. Yes. In our never-ending, more of Dr. Baldessari's never-ending quest to wrap policy up, which will never be wrapped up because there's either tweaks, changes, additions, new policies, whatever's coming around. So we did have quite a bit to go over that day, starting with service animals, and we passed out the information just recently. So when you have this in front of you, I guess today is just more a presentation, gives you an opportunity. The issue may be that some of these policies will probably get pushed to individual subcommittees, I'm guessing, based on next year's setup of committees, subcommittees. Having said that, some of these will, it'll be up to the chair to figure out where they belong in that subcommittee.
So, Mr. Kissel, you're saying that these are just being introduced to the school committee for the first time, and we're not acting on them, we're just looking at them and giving notice that we might be acting on them
Yes,
in
and the
future.
subcommittee did meet
Thank you.
and voted to bring some forward, and others, and I'll go over that in my minutes in a minute.
Okay,
Some
sure, thank you.
were not ready yet, still needed some more information before we could present it. So
Okay.
anyway, so we started with service animals, and again, feel free to jump in at any point if I did the best I could with my notes. A lot of talking going on, a lot of stuff. So service animals, I believe, is IMG. I got it right? From the MASC manual, I did write down, we want to make it clear that the principals have to give permission. Is that right?
Yes.
All right.
It's a longer policy, but yes, the
Yeah.
principal would approve any animal in the school. There are prohibitions of
Yes.
certain animals, bats and things like that. But yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we talked about all
Yeah.
different
What are
types
we
of-
doing with this, with animals?
Well,
in
we
school?
voted as a committee, 2-0. Pat happened to be absent for that particular vote, then came on. On the motion, Colleen added miniature horses, which I believe was already part of it. I think so. And just making sure that they were covered, so appreciate that. So we voted 2-0 to bring it to the committee to kind of put it on the table, we'll call it, even though we're not really putting it on the table anymore. We just bring it to the next meeting.
Great,
Or-
so do I have a motion to put ING, animals in school, on the table?
So moved.
Okay, and any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. That motion passes.
Excellent.
Go ahead, Mr. Kissel.
Concussion. Right now, it's just a procedure, I believe. Dr. Baldessari will look at the Mass General laws, making sure we're compliant. Needs more time to go over this document, so we tabled it.
Great.
So that might go in front of, I don't know, whoever. Yeah, John, whoever, the chair will do that. Translation. I don't know if I'm calling it the right thing, but that's what I wrote when I first had the notes.
Equitable communication, translation, and interpretation.
Yeah, maybe I just wrote that as a brief.
Yeah.
So, the system has up to 400 non-English speaking speakers using, is it using a language line? I forgot what
Language
my
line is
combo
what we're
was.
using to communicate with our families.
Gotcha.
Yep.
All right. So it's not in the MASC manual. Ellen Crowley mentioned the LPAC and how they're happy to have this policy. Did speak up on that. So we voted 3-0 to bring it to the full committee, which we're doing tonight.
And this is going on the table. Do I have a motion to put
on the
equitable
table.
communication, translation, interpretation on the table to be brought up and voted on at a later meeting?
So moved.
Chairman.
Yes?
So I just wonder, I see we're specifying languages, but if it's a policy, should we not, just, if we could say,
I do believe the language, the policy that's in your hand, does it say top 4 languages?
Yes.
Yeah. It doesn't say the name of the language, correct?
Well, no, mine says,
Yeah, English, Portuguese, Spanish.
Which are current, okay.
Yeah.
I can.
It says currently these languages.
Yeah, so
Currently, I can change that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we change that.
Well, it's on the table, so we would.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm confused when we're supposed to, if we want to vote on it next meeting.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's 2 meetings.
Two meetings, yep.
Yeah, so we have this meeting, they go
Okay.
on,
Now I
next meeting we
understand.
discuss, and then the next meeting we vote.
Okay.
That's still
But
an
you know,
excellent.
Dr. Wells, there was the original policy, I had the names of the languages throughout, and those adjustments were made.
Okay.
And so I do agree with you, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just, one great thing we could do is LPAC, we could make sure.
Yeah.
Well, let me finish my sentence, so we're not mind reading here. Because Dr. Balsari is reading my mind. That LPAC should definitely weigh in on this policy. So thank you, Dr. Balsari. He's nodding. All right. Next, Mr. Kissel?
Religious, cultural, spiritual holidays. I think there was a little bit of confusion on this one, but we making accommodations for students. There are multiple policies on absences and excuses for students based on various reasons. JH is one of them. We're going to review and consider the MASC policy. Add in cultural if wanted, the word cultural talk in the policy itself. Talk about making sure admin and principals are more cognizant of holidays for back-to-school nights. And I think that's really what it was supposed to be about, just kind of making sure that admin and the principals and so on are aware of kind of major holidays that affect a lot of people, and so we did talk about that. So I don't think we brought it to a vote. There was nothing on that. So.
Thank you, Mr.
Good.
Kissel.
Homeschooling, IHBG, I guess the number is now 66, I hear tonight. Was 64 in my notes. Homeschooling students of the community, but the state does not give money for support. Is that, I wrote down, my notes are pretty good now. Reviewing lesson plans, materials, and hours. Parent Dale Goldstein asked if the students could be part of the extracurriculum. The answer was yes, and she wanted to make sure we get the word out about that. So that's a great opportunity as well. Some of the wording that was added, a lot of it was just kind of basic changes, adding in the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, basic changes. We did vote 3-0 to bring it to the full committee. So.
Do I have a motion to put this on the table for
Yes.
vote at a later meeting?
So moved.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Great, that policy's put on the table. Yes,
So, Madam Chair,
Mr. Wells.
just the comment there just struck a
Dr.
nerve
Wells.
with me, and I just want to make sure we have some kind of process if, they said a parent wanted to make sure the word was passed on that kids could play in sports, if they were homeschooling. And I'm just wondering, there must have been some miscommunication at some point if that was an issue.
I just think she wasn't familiar with the fact that they could participate.
Okay.
And that's.
She's new to homeschooling, so she wasn't just.
Because I didn't know whether, say some coach who.
She hadn't been
maybe
turned
a
down or
volunteer
anything.
or
No.
something like that told them they couldn't, so.
No.
Okay.
I think it's just if every year there's a new homeschooling, maybe there's a new community member, it's probably good to keep them updated. I think people.
No.
Yep.
Just that, yes, but the superintendent must approve.
Yeah, right. But as long as we don't want false information by mistake being given by staff members.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Recess, infractions in school, loss of recess, they should not be denied recess. Kids need the time to burn energy, could be the reason they're causing infractions to begin with. Basically, that wasn't a.
Just discussion.
Just discussion, that's what I thought.
And that, we might want to have a larger discussion about it.
Yeah, but basically it was just that, we don't want to take away recess as a punishment. So obviously, again, that's more of an admin procedural thing.
Thank you, Mr. Kissel, for
All right.
clarifying that. That was an important question.
Student grievances. Didn't do a lot on this policy. I did have to fly about 11:30, so I was running a little behind. I apologize. Mike Baltzari presented it, but we'll present it again later in specific subcommittee. Again, I say specific subcommittee, whatever subcommittee that gets pushed to. Pat,
We're not ready.
Yeah, so that one that you have was a late ad. I'm sorry, Mr. Kissel.
Oh, yeah.
And so what that is there's just one language change that was recommended by Attorney Joyce so that we comply with our non-discrimination and harassment policy. And you'll see that underlined in blue on the page that you're holding.
Madam Chairman, can we make a motion to suspend the rules just to approve this? If it's one line, that our attorney recommended, why hold it up?
Yeah, whether it's part of
This was
what we-
actually brought to the subcommittee last September, but then it kind of got missed.
Okay, so it seems I have a motion to approve one line that says the following: appeals regarding civil rights will be handled in accordance with applicable school committee policies and specific civil rights grievance procedures. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on approving this policy, adding this one sentence to make it more compliant with MGL 7617? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Excellent. So then we, do you
Thank
have
you,
anything else,
Dr.
Dr.
Walsh.
Baltzar? So we adjourned at 11:37. The vote was 3-0 to adjourn.
That's great, Mr. Kissel, great job. So, if you know homeschooling families, you can pass out the proposed policy to them, make sure they feel connected, and then, it sounds like Dr. Baltzar has already thought about LPAC, looking at the language translation policy. That's fantastic. Resource and Capital Planning Subcommittee,
We're meeting tomorrow.
Dr. Wells?
Thursday.
Great.
Thursday. Oh, Thursday, excuse me, thank you.
Awesome, sounds great. Thank you. Student Service and Achievement Subcommittee.
Yes, we met Friday, December 19th, 2021, at the Joyce Middle School Committee Room. In attendance were myself, Dr. Baldessari, Maureen Ryan, Christopher Kissel, and Julie Cotton. The meeting was called to order at 9:04 a.m. For the SPED update, we have some staffing updates. We've heard some today. New hires include an occupational therapist, a registered behavioral therapist, and a speech language pathologist. 2 BCBA positions have been filled, one placed at the Joyce Middle School in anticipation of rising students. Val Matthews is returning to the classrooms as the second BCBA, and her position, elementary coordinator, has been posted. We are down 3 school psychologists and continue to look for more RBTs. There is a statewide lack of school psychologists, as previously mentioned. Paras have been coming and going. One potential reason Ms. Ryan mentioned is that other districts have tiered salaries, and that may be something we want to consider. We need them mostly for program-level students with higher needs. Professional development highlights. As always, we have Ross Green, Melissa Orkin, Karen Janowski, Maureen Lessert. We have completed a Linda Mood Bell Seeing Stars training, and for Wilson Reading Level 1 cohort is beginning in January. We're looking to train paras and add a Compass program so we can train people in-house, and 2 safety care trainings are running after school. In program development, we continue to see high needs. We're monitoring numbers and capacity. There is roughly 1 new student per week moving in with high needs. Technology additions and upgrades are working well. Some projectors will have touchscreen capabilities. And OT is working on calming corners. For challenges, transportation continues to be a challenge, and NRT is doing their best. Students in crisis are leading to increased safety concerns and increased instances of discipline. COVID is affecting programs and presenting significant staffing challenges and staff absences. There is an increased demand for assessments with Tier 1 and Tier 2 students due to learning loss. Staffing shortages are resulting in an inability to place students out of district or provide home services. And Ms. Ryan noted there is a need for a STEP program to support students transitioning from hospitals, similar to the BRIGHT program at the high school. SSA update. Professional development training at the high school on the 7th of December, called Best Practices for Supporting LGBTQ Students and Families. According to an act relative to gender identity, which became effective in 2012, protecting students from discrimination based on gender identity as well as sexual orientation. This training reviews laws, policies, resources, and best practices for supporting lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning students. Working on LGBTQ plus resources and supports for elementary schools, as well as a deeper dive for professional development for clinical staff. The next training will be at the Joyce and Kennedy Middle Schools, March 23rd, 2022. The Critical Incidents Response Team, CIRT, has been developed. Dr. Baldessari, Kendra Stinson, and Peter Sperber have been working with Kristen Kirby from NEMLAC STARS in the development of the WPS CIRT Comprehensive Plan. 3 response teams have also already been established with procedures and training to follow. LPAC met November 1st via Zoom for an vaccination information session. December 9th, they met in person at the Harold Wyman, and Winchester Hospital was there for their community needs assessment to fill out their focus groups with some of our LPAC parents. For the language line, there have been 248 calls made up to the 7th of December, with roughly 2,412 minutes of translation. The Massachusetts English Learner Leadership Council, Dr. Baldessari and Ms. Mendez-Sheldon, were invited to present the Woburn Public Schools Family and Community Engagement Actions and Future Plans at this statewide virtual meeting on December 3rd. There was a brainstorming session held by Dr. Baldessari, Ms. Mendez-Sheldon, Dr. Wayne Allman, and Burlington Public School personnel on 12/7 to discuss possibilities for the ARPA funding that is expected in 2022, such as providing primary health care, such as vaccinations and physicals, for uninsured children to expedite the school enrollment process. Under holiday support for families, Ms. Mendez-Sheldon is working with Genesis Church, Christmas in Whoville, Premier Supply, and others to ensure holiday gift distribution for identified families. The Backpack Program, in partnership with the Council for Social Concern and Winchester Hospital, who donated $2,500 for backpacks, provided 19 backpacks filled with food distributed on Friday, December 3rd. The 21st Century program at the Malcolm White is now fully staffed, supporting up to 50 low-income students from Goodyear and Malcolm White. DESE visited this program on December 9th, and if this program works well, it can be extended for 3 years. TCS training certification held in person on 12/8 with 22 participants. The district is looking for more trainers, as some have left due to retirement, and also looking to offer TCI for families with Ms. Mendez-Sheldon, working with families on non-restraint interventions. Fund Code 302, Woburn Public Schools was awarded over $11,000, which supports homeless and student participation in fee-based community activities such as instrument rental, karate, dance, and club sports. In partnership with the Boys and Girls Club and YMCA, we're doing interest surveys to see what the kids are interested in so that the kids and parents can interact with peers in the community they otherwise might not if they were not to participate. Winchester Hospital COVID update as of December 7th. There were 23 hospitalized COVID patients. Half of those were younger, unvaccinated, and half were older/elderly and vaccinated. The hospital is full and also experiencing staffing shortages. The World Language Honor Society induction was held on Thursday, December 2nd. EL/FEL monitoring took place over the last couple weeks, and access training starts on January 6th, 2022. CPAC met 11/17 with Renee Morgan and Maureen Ryan. So they spoke about connecting with out-of-district families. They sent a survey to out-of-district families from CPAC. And their next meeting is tomorrow at the Woburn Public Library from 5 to 7 p.m., and we adjourned at 10:07 a.m.
Thank you, Ms. Cormier. Any questions for our Student Service and Achievement Subcommittee? No? Okay. Correspondence? Does anyone have any? Now, I just want to acknowledge, I got a couple of inquiries about the Woburn drinking water situation, and I just want to acknowledge that certainly the school committee will be collaborating with the city and to investigate the issue further and to see what whatever the mayor decides to do. The school committee will be working with the mayor on this issue. Perhaps resources should just monitor the issue and see if...
The community in general is interested in what's going to happen because it's affecting the community, not just the schools.
Right. That's right. But I got some questions about whether the school is going to be installing filters and things of that nature, and so I think resources should just keep an eye on it so that we can know what is needed on our part to keep our community safe in schools. Thank you, Dr. Wells.
But the concern is, if we put filters here, the students presumably are getting the same different with the water at their homes. So.
Yes, Dr. Wells. Yeah. Collaboration is needed. So that's the only correspondence I have. If I forgot any correspondence, I deeply apologize, and I will read them next. No, I may not read them next meeting, but I might. Okay.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. I misspoke that the CPAC meeting is on Thursday this week, not tomorrow.
So that would be January.
16th.
No, it wouldn't be January, Ellen. It'd be December 16th. At what time?
5 to 7 p.m. at the program room at the Woburn Public Library.
That's fantastic. Great.
Thank you.
I got a letter from the Woburn Community Education Foundation that the online raffle fundraiser is starting on January 24th and ending on February 7th. And they are having a winter raffle on February 9th, 2022, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Woburn Country Club. So thank you, Woburn Education Foundation, for that correspondence. Future agenda items, our next meeting will be an organizational meeting. Will be held on January 3rd, 2022.
It says 8 p.m.
It says 8 p.m.
Well, that's usually when the inauguration...
Sorry, that's what
Yes.
the inauguration says. I emailed Lindsay Higgins, and she did not correct me on that. I asked her to clarify if it was actually 8 p.m. for the inauguration. It appears to
Okay.
be.
Just want to make sure.
We'll find out.
Miss it.
Well, I'm not being inaugurated, neither is Dr. Wells, so.
No,
Are we?
are.
Are we? We are?
go.
Oh, we do? No, I know we go, but
We do the same.
Yeah.
we do.
Because
But are
we
we
were given 2
inaugurated?
years, so this is our next 2-year term.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic, okay, well, all right. Okay, executive session, yes. The chair has decided that there should be 3 issues to go over into executive session. I'm just going to read them so I don't miss anything. The school committee has an option of going into executive session for the purpose of strategy and collective bargaining with the Woburn Teachers Association. And I request a motion to go into executive session for deliberating a level 3 grievance, which is required under a collective bargaining agreement with multiple unions. And we have the option of going into executive session for the purposes of strategy and litigation particularly applying to a fair labor issue filed for arbitration. So those are the 3 issues that the school committee will be addressing in executive session. Before you make a motion, I just want to state for the record that we could be in executive session for quite a bit of time. So I just want the public to know that if there are any votes taken, we do go into executive session, I will come out in public and I will announce any votes taken. Ms. Mulrennan, you want to make a motion?
I make a motion, we go into executive session for the purposes stated by the chairperson.
Okay, second. Any discussion on that motion?
On the motion, if there's
Yes.
something with teachers, then I would be excluding myself from that part.
Thank you, Ms. Chisholm. Ms. Chisholm will be entering into, if we do vote, she'll be entering into executive session, listening but not participating, because she has a daughter who's a teacher in the school system. Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Chisholm?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Mr. Lipset?
Yes.
Mr. Kissel?
Yes.
Mr. Mulrennan?
Yes.
Dr. Wells?
Yes.
Ms. Crowley?
Yes. So the school committee has voted unanimously to go into executive session. If any